Condo, corner where we rise and grow. Twist and turn, let the passion flow. Condo, corner watch the future shine. Every scale a story, one of a kind.
From the shadows we move, striking out bright. In every twist we find the light. Breeding the best, gotta have patience in this game. Chondro Corner, where we make our name. Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner, Chondro Corner. Chondro Corner, where we rise and grow. Twist and turn, let the passion flow. Chondro Corner, watch the future shine. Every scale a story, one of a kind.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 36 of Conjure Corner on the Herp Collectors Network. It's been a long few weeks. Big thank you again to my partner in crime, Ro, for covering an episode for me while I took a bunch of teenagers on vacation. Needless to say, I need a vacation from my vacation. Before we bring Miles on, I just want to go through the early birds. Maybe. There we go. Bosa, thank you for tuning in. Hey, Shauna, how are you? Marcus and Tiffany, as always, thank you for coming on. Tito's in the house. Randy, thank you for coming on. I will be posting pictures of Randy Jr. soon because he's about to shed again for me. Rich Kenzinger from Ballistic Morse, thank you as well for coming on. So I'm going to go ahead and leave off from there and go ahead and bring Miles on. Hey.
What's that? I just realized that this was your episode number 36. You should have had some 3-6 Mafia playing.
I probably should have, honestly. I could have put it on like our thumbnail or something, but
you can cut it in.
I'm not that quick on my feet lately. You know, I'm a little burned out with all these kids running around. So,
yeah.
So first of all, before we get into the nitty gritty, explain your tag name for Instagram, please, and thank you.
Yeah. So, where I live in Oregon is it's on the 45th degree parallel. And so it's runs. I've been a farmer and a gardener for a lot of my life, and so the 45th degree parallel, it's one of the best growing areas in the whole world. That's why a lot of vineyards and stuff are around here, because it's the same actually as it is in France and Europe. And so the weather is pretty similar. So it just has the 45th degree parallel is one of the best growing zones for pretty much everything. And that's where I live at. So that's the 45th degree. And then the MP. Yeah, exactly. Randy knows what I'm talking about. And MP3 is my name, Miles Peck, and I'm the third. So yeah, that's where the name comes from, I guess.
So I've read your name several times, obviously, and I'm like, where the hell does he come up with this at? I was trying to figure it out. Now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So I'm just always going to remember that that's, where you can.
Yeah, it's a tag that I had for a lot of forums and stuff, and I would do grow forums, and like Randy said, I used to grow lots of different things, and not just weed, but tomatoes and peppers, and I would breed them together. And so this is kind of where the whole breeding thing comes into play. Is I was making my own strains and my own seeds and selling those for about the last 10 years before I decided to start doing this again. And I decided to just stop partying and smoking and drinking and stuff, and kind of started getting out of it. And so I was I'm gonna need a hobby, you know. So I had found this really runty. Sorry, this glare is on my glasses is pissing me off. I'm just gonna stand up really tall. Um, uh, I was hiking around with a friend of mine that I grew up with and went to school with, and we were in the woods, and I just started flipping logs and stuff, you know, like I always do when I'm out. And I was flipping logs, and I saw this little coiled up yellow and black thing inside of this log that I flipped, and it just kind of disintegrated. And at first I thought it was a millipede or something. So I kind of poked my finger in there to get it out, and this little head popped out, and it was a baby gopher snake, and really cool, brightly patterned one. And he just popped out, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy, because I don't usually see him here in the Willamette Valley. Southern Oregon, yes. Eastern Oregon, totally. But not in our, like, I've lived here. I moved here. I was born in Washington, but I've lived in Oregon since I was about 10 or 11, and never seen one here. So I was like, whoa, crazy. So I pulled the little guy out and was holding him and stuff, and he was just crawled up I was wearing a flannel button up like this, and he just crawled up my arm and went like into my pocket and just stayed in there for like 4 hours while we were hiking around and fishing and stuff, and would just pop his little head out and like look around and like go back in. So I'm like, well, I guess I gotta bring this guy home or something, you know. And so I was just planning on bringing it home, because my son, he's just turned 9, and this was 2 years ago, and so he was just at that age where he like wanted a pet, but he didn't know if he wanted like a snake or a lizard or a hamster, you know. He just wanted something to have. And so I was planning on just bringing it to show him and like let him kind of hold it and check it out, you know, see what is it, because he had held garter snakes and stuff before, but he just totally fell in love with this little guy. Named him Reggie Splinters like right away, because I told him I found him in this log full of splinters. And so I ended up just throwing a 15-gallon aquarium together for that little thing, and he was so small and stunted. Like and this was about May when I found him, so I know that he had overwintered, but he looked like he had never eaten at all, because he was so skinny, scrawny. And so I was like, my plan was, I'll get this thing eaten and then put it back where I found it, you know.
Yeah.
And well, it took probably about 4 months for it to start eating, and I tried everything, and it didn't want to eat. I don't think it knew how to eat anything, because everything I would put in there, it would be like, oh, a friend, and would just like cuddle up with it and not try to eat it. And I'm like, no, like, you have to eat, dude. Like, and so it took me about 4 months, and then finally I got him to eat like a brained pink or something. And he's huge now.
So he's still there.
Yeah. And so that kind of sparked the whole reptile thing coming back, because I used to keep all kinds of reptiles when I was younger, but I hadn't had anything probably for since I was about, I'll say 25, I think. And so yeah, here I am, you know, wanting to get out of my growing and seed business. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to start looking at, you know, the snakes that I really liked keeping, which were always the arboreal species. And I got turned on to those really, really early. And so I ended up finding Morph Market and looked on there and went straight to Amazon's, because they honestly have been my favorite, even over I've had green tree pythons, emerald tree boas, and all kinds of snakes, but Amazons have always been my favorite. And even though the first one I got was a wild caught Halloween from LLL Reptile or something, like what I think I was like probably like around 15 or something. And I was just in love with them from then, because they were way more active than the other arboreal species, which I mean, I love green tree pythons, I love emerald tree boas, and I always will, but they were just much more personable of an animal to me, and they came in amazing variety of colorations, as you know. And then once, you know, I found out that the first pair that I put together, I didn't even know about the whole polymorphic aspect of them until I had paired some up. And next thing I know, I have all these different colors of tree boas, and I was like, what? So that's pretty much sealed the deal for me from a really young age. So I started looking at, you know, prices on Morph Market and stuff. This was about 2 years ago, and was like, damn, some of these are selling for like, you know, $5,000 for certain ones. And I got in touch with people that I kept with and bred with other breeders in the area, and got hooked up really, really quick. Like, it almost seemed like I was making the right decision. Like, something was like, this is what's going to happen, and it's going to take over your world pretty much. Like, because within, I think it was not even 2 months, I ended up with 4 adult pairs.
Okay, so that makes me feel better, because in 2 months but mine aren't adults, but in 2 months I ended up with 8.
Yeah. So getting back into it, yeah. In 2 months, 4 adult pairs and 2 gravid females by the end of that.
Holy cow.
Because that was in the end of the summer. So I got them before winter. Was like, I'm gonna pair them up, just see what they do. Because I've kept so many different species throughout my life. I pretty much have a catalog of care guides in my head, and can pretty much know, depending on where the species comes from, or what the environment should be for that particular species. So I didn't really have any hiccups with making sure the humidity was right or the temperatures were right or anything. I already pretty much knew what to do. And so the animals settled in really, really quickly. Everybody was eating good, and females had plenty of weight on them. So I was like, roll the dice.
So out of all of those, because it sounds like you've had several litters at that point, how many do you still have from those litters?
Well, so out of those 2, I had it was actually the first female that I got, and she was a Halloween, really nice Halloween. I think she's the one in my my main picture on Instagram or whatever. And she was awesome. Her name was Azalea, and I had gotten her from this guy in Portland that I knew. He said that he got him from Dayton, Croydon. And yeah, she was awesome. And I had another Halloween that was Pos Het Leopard, and I paired those two together, and she was gravid for about probably, she was only about a month or two away from giving birth, and it really sucked because I was almost done with work for the summer, and it was like the second day, I think, before my last day, and I got home and she was just like in a weird position, and I was like, that's not right. And so I opened it up and she was gone. And so I know that she was about 9 years old, and she had never even seen another Amazon. So I don't know if her body just couldn't handle it or something, because like I said, temps, everything, we're all dialed in, and she was still with the male, and because I cohab them, I'm a pretty big push on cohabbing Amazons, because they seem to do really, really well together compared to most other species. They almost seem to chill out a little bit, I feel like, because they're such a nervous species that any little touch or like, wind or anything, they're gonna like and I feel like when they have another one of their species in there touching them and stuff, that kind of flightiness goes away a lot. Because I've had some, I still have some, and it's always the boys for some reason in my collection. I think you might have been one of the ones that said switched in your collection, or maybe that was somebody else. But yeah, all the girls that I have are super, super sweet. Can take them out whenever I want, just reach in there. But all the boys are like super pissy, want to fight all the time. Like any inch of bare skin, like they'll find it. Yeah. But
mine for my Amazons isn't well, I haven't even sexed half of them because I'm just like, whatever, I got a few years.
They're still pretty young though, aren't they?
Yeah. Like my oldest ones are 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could technically sex those if I wanted to, but honestly at this point I don't really.
Yeah, you'll figure out.
They're here to stay, so I really don't care right now,
Yeah. You can they shed plugs.
Yeah.
Not as often as green trees. But they do. And another thing I've noticed, this isn't like 100% or anything, but just something that I've noticed is females do this thing where they will whip you away with the end of their tail. Like and they do it to males that they don't want on them too. They will like thrash that thing around. And so if you see any like aggressive tail whipping in a younger or yearling, I've come to find out that they end up being females.
So that's probably my colorless, probably a female then. Yeah. She's just a bitch. She nails me regardless, and then my wild cut import nails me regardless. The rest of them, I can just open their drawer, pick them up, and bloop, and they sit there in my hand, and we're calm, cool, collected. But those two don't miss a lick.
To answer your question, I guess, sorry, I'm like getting off topic and stuff. But so I lost that one, and then I had a yellow tiger female from Jeffrey Sarbacker, and she's also supposed to be Pos Het Leopard. And I paired her up to a really cool orange, kind of like normal animal, I guess. But I should have sent you pictures of that one. But he has like a ton of white speckles all throughout. Like he looks like a calico. Tons of white speckles, neon orange speckles, and then he has this weird lavender. His patterns are like this lavender gray kind of color. So So he looks like kind of this weird dirty calico thing, but super whitewashed up from the bottom of him up his sides and stuff. And I was curious to see if that would pass along, because you don't see that very much. And it really did. So she gave birth in September 20th of this last year, and she had 12 babies. No slugs, no stills. And yeah, almost all of them, like right away, had crazy whitewash speckling thing going on. So that was cool to see. And then out of those 12, 8 of them ended up tigers, and 4 of them were normals. And one of those normals is a pretty cool paradox.
And you're keeping all of those, I'm assuming, for now.
Just no, I actually, that reptile show that I did, I brought 9 and I sold 7, I think.
Nice.
So almost sold out. And so I only kept 4. I kept 1 yellow tiger. It's pretty much patternless, so it's kind of, is it a tiger if it's patternless, you know? You can see I say that because like his main stripe, it's like a shade different than his base yellow color, which is really like, looks like kind of like what a hypo would look like anyways. And I noticed he's got a lot of white stripes coming in too. So that's cool. And then I kept an orange tiger that has yellow stripes and some really cool busy kind of patterning. And then I kept a really high pattern tiger that is yellow with this weird speckly black pattern and lots of neon orange all throughout it. And then I also kept that paradox normal. So I pretty much, it was kind of weird because I got like, it was like totally like Noah's Ark. Sorry, Noah. Noah's Ark style, because I got, so out of the 8 tigers, I got 2 yellow tigers, 2 orange tigers, 2 in between yellowish orange tigers, and then 2 like of those like high pattern tigers. And then of the normals, I got 2 yellows and 2 oranges. So it was like I got 2 of pretty much each.
Everything.
Yeah. So it was pretty easy to pick holdbacks from that.
Well, since we touched on the show, I'm going to bring some of these. Well, first I'm going to play the video of the little guy looking at one of your Amazons at the show. So we'll pull that up.
No, she's sweet.
Good job.
So that particular Amazon is an Amazon that you obviously were using for people
What
to
up,
be able to
Queen
interact
Dog?
with. Yeah.
That's my boy
so
right there.
talk to me about that specific Amazon, because it's in pretty much every one of these pictures, I believe, that you sent me.
Yeah. So this animal,
that's cute, that little boy holding it.
Yeah, she did awesome. Her name's Coraline, and I got her from Dayton. She's a red tiger with she got some kind of orangish inner
Here's
stripes.
this picture. I'll pull this one up there.
Yeah, she was in shed too. So she probably got held by like 80 people that day. That's my mom holding her right there. And that's that Danny Mendez article I was telling you about right there. But yeah, so she was in shed. Yeah, that's my mama. She was in shed, and she just loves to be held. She loves for me to take her out. And here, You want to hold on for just a second? I'll just go
Yeah,
grab her.
sure.
All right.
Bring her out.
So this is
Is
Coraline.
your snake room on the other side of your house?
Yeah.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Yeah, she's really, really pretty and really curious. She just loves to chill and kick it. She actually just sheds out.
She's stunning.
Yeah, she's a great girl. She wasn't always like this. When Dayton only lives about an hour from me, so I'm pretty lucky there. When I went up to meet him, met him at OMSI, and he brought me this one and another one I think that he had. So these were born, I think, November 22. So she'll be 3. And she likes to do this handcuff thing where she'll like lock me up. But yeah, so she's red tiger, het calico.
She's super chill.
Yeah, she loves to just kick it and hang out, and
So
she'll
besides
just find a nice comfy spot and then she'll
chill.
just stay that. Yeah.
Besides obviously selling animals at that show, a big part of that show was letting people interact with the species.
Especially this one right here, because that was a big part of it for me. Was I wanted people to see that they're not all crazy, and there were a ton of people that were there at the show, and I'd be like, do you want to hold one of them? Because I had a couple of them there on display. And they'd be like, oh no, man, you won't catch me dead with one of those things are insane. And I'd be like, well, there's a 3-year-old kid holding one right here. And I'd like turn out of the way, and they'd be like, oh shit, yeah, I'll check that out. So it really opened a lot of people's eyes up to the fact that they're not all
what their stigma leads them to believe.
Yeah. Like not defensive at all. Like
and we all kind of know our animals too, and which ones, like, obviously like this one up here who doesn't miss a lick, I wouldn't put in anybody's hands. But
yeah. It was definitely I picked her for a reason, definitely. But she wasn't always like this. Like when I first went to go pick her up from Dayton, we opened the bag and she kind of like launched herself out at both of us. He was like, well, she's ready. And so I was like, yeah, I want that one. And brought her home, and she's like protective of me, my girlfriend says, because anytime anybody walks by or anything and I'm holding her, she'll be so chill like this, and then she'll just be like what are you doing? He's mine. But yeah, so awesome. she's got a funny personality. But so yeah, about 80, and there was kids, as young as that little boy that were wanting to hold her, and everybody was wanting to check her out, and she was just doing her thing and climbing up people, and not even a little bit of a scare or anything. And then at the end of the show, once I started cleaning up, I had put her back in that big cage that's behind that kid right there. And
On this one.
no, the Exoterra
Okay.
that was behind the other kid. And I put my hand in to grab her to put her into the traveling container to come back from the show. And she fucking wham nails my hand. I was like, what? You just had like 80 kids hold you and you're going to bite me like after all that? Like
She had enough of your shit.
She's never bit me either, like ever. And so I just chalked that up to, she thought I was giving her a treat, like, good job. Here's a mouse.
So talk about that's a green tree, right? Make sure,
Yeah.
I might look like I'm 20, but I'm almost 40. So, okay. Yeah.
That's a male Bayak, came from Patrick Holmes.
Okay. And you just brought him for people to see, interact with, same concept, or just
I was gonna sell him. I just picked it up from somebody. He had a really bad RI and like snout rub and stuff.
Yeah.
And the person that was trying to sell him was like, I can't really sell it like this, and he knows that I have Baytril loaded to the max in my cabinets. And so he knew that I would be able to treat the animal. And so I just gave him a couple bucks. And he let me have the green tree python. And yeah, I got him back to, he's killing it now. He's huge, ready to breed actually. So that was kind of, I was like, I don't just want a green tree sitting around. Like, so I'm thinking about pairing him up. But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of all about Amazons now.
I can understand that completely.
I mean, they're cool, but he just fucking sits there.
Yeah, they're acorns. Not that I'm knocking them.
Ball python on the trees.
Because I have several acorns.
yeah. And I have had, tons and tons. But yeah, I like the Amazons way better. They're way more active and they like to interact more. And it's really cool to see too when you have these people that have these so set in stone preconceived notions of what these animals are and all that they can be. Mm-hmm. And then they see, a 3-year-old kid holding them and having the time of their life, because I guarantee none of those kids were like, a pink snake, because she was in shed and so her eyes were blue. And I was like, sure. Yeah, that's what she is.
It draws a crowd though too, because the stigma is so strong with both those and green trees, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so when people see that you can actually hold them and interact with them, it draws in a crowd all on its own.
Changes a lot of minds.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, that show was really good. I sold almost all my snakes, and I think I only paid like $40 for a booth.
Quinn said my 3-year-old holds all my last year's litter. She loves them. The kids have like no fear whatsoever.
No, I have a picture of my son on my Instagram, and he's holding that yellow tiger from that had last year's babies, and she's like 7 feet, and he's just like got her out, got a little glove on, and he's just like.
Now, hopefully that doesn't change, because like mine, they used to be all about, and they'd reach in, just grab whoever, and then they hit those teenage years, and now they're like, oh, I'm gonna stick my hand in there, like.
Yeah.
So hopefully the kiddos don't lose that, but mine sure the hell did. Yeah,
no, mine he loves every living creature. He's just like me when I was little. So, and I've always, been into it like since I was probably his age, 8, 9. I would the pinnacle of what I've always wanted since I was a little kid was like the wall at Petco, you know, of like just all the cages, you know, pull out. And ever since I was a little kid, I was just like, I'm gonna have that shit someday. And so even being a young kid like that, I had my dad showed me how to build screen and wood cages. And so I had at both my mom's and my dad's house, the sheds in the backyard were filled with these wooden screen cages, and every species of reptile, amphibian I had in its own cage, in its own area, like just wall to wall. And they were breeding, they were having babies, they're, you know, it's like it was insane. And I remember, yeah, some of my friends and we would just have like we would have people come over and like they'd buy, like it was our own pet stores essentially. And so they would come over and see what animals we had, and they'd buy them from us and stuff, and we'd have ice cream money for the day or whatever. And then as I got older, you know, then I started, you know, my mom would take me to Petco or whatever when they would have the cage sales, and I would pick all stuff out. And, you know, I was keeping all kinds of bearded dragons, leopard geckos, chameleons, and breeding those. And I had actually real good mentor. He was a manager at Petco, and he ended up working for my mom's business for a long time. And he was a really cool guy. His name was Brian, and he introduced me to Brad Tileman, the Brad's World Reptiles guy. He's a real big breeder around the area, and that's how I think I got my first pair of green trees from. And just, yeah, he, you know, pretty much taught me everything about, you know, reptiles. And I started, you know, researching like crazy and going in, and I would do job shadows with different breeders and at different pet stores and all kinds of, I was just, that was just my jam, that and skateboarding, and it hasn't ever changed.
Stuck with you. Is there a species that you haven't had yet that you would like to have at some point?
Probably, I mean, the only one I could think of is like the super rare Corralis that's down in Brazil that they thought was extinct. Cropani.
Okay.
Corralis cropani. But that's not going to happen.
Like I could dream, but it won't happen.
Other than that, I have had pretty much every dream animal. I've been really lucky and fortunate. I know a lot of breeders and a lot of people that have been in the game for a long time, a lot of importers. So I can pretty much get my hands on whatever I need to. But the one thing I do really, really want, and it's my birthday in 9 days.
Hint.
Is I'm probably just gonna have to make it, but I want that emerald Amazon hybrid that Warren Booth has, or Dayton has one too. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh my gosh.
So now I gotta go look it up.
You should probably check that out. Another guy named John was breeding them for a long time, a while ago, and people
you know
people
what?
stopped.
I might have seen it.
Yeah, they look crazy, like a
I want to say
psychedelic
maybe I
pizza or
could see.
something.
Yeah.
They're like red and white and green, and but
I
the
want to
one,
say
the one,
my board and cruising IG days
yeah,
moments.
the ones that Dayton and Warren have are siblings.
Mhm.
I think they came from a imported emerald, was gravid, and she had the babies, and they're just super cool. They look like the one that Dayton has looks like army fatigues or something. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Quinn, is I'm just gonna have to make my own probably because they're few and far between. But and a lot of people I think shied away from them because they were like not thriving very well, I think.
Randy said we need to go cruise his IG page.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dayton has them, and Warren has them on there too, because I think they're rather young. I think 2 years old or something, maybe. But John's were really crazy. They were like bright red and white. It was like whatever Amazon, the ones that Warren and Dayton have wasn't a red Amazon, but I think the one that John bred with was a red one because a lot of the red came out in those ones. But yeah, amazing animals. Gets me thinking on the hybrid thing. I'm not exactly against it as long as you're doing your due diligence and not mislabeling and selling things as what they aren't, or making sure that the people that they go to know to not mislabel it.
Yeah.
But honestly, with a project like that, I probably wouldn't be letting anything go. I wouldn't even want to risk it.
No, I would keep it.
Yeah.
Mine is not quite that exciting. My dream species is a Boiga Siena.
Oh yeah, the
green-eyed cat snake.
The cat snakes, yeah, those are really cool.
Yeah, but I can't have them here. So.
Oh really? Where are you in Florida? Or?
I am, and even though they're not quite as potent as some of the other Boigas in the Boiga family, they just did a ban on the entire.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of how it goes.
So.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. Maybe if I pester them enough.
maybe you'll move to a better state.
We'll see. Time will tell. But yeah, no, I was like, what do you mean I can't? I was like, it's not even. What am I gonna swell up a little bit and get a little rash? Like, what?
How crazy is Florida, man, without Boiga?
And my officer was like, no, Jennifer, you can't have it. And I was like, but you can have a hog nose. I can't have this. Like,
yeah, exactly right.
So I don't know. We'll see. She said, give us some time. I don't know how much time I'll give it, but yeah, I freaking love those snakes. They're freaking amazing. But.
So how many Amazons do you have now? 4?
8.
8. Good job.
I acquired them quite quickly.
That's the way to do it.
I started with green trees, and then I wanted to branch out and get another species, and so I went with Amazons. I was debating between Amazons or emeralds, but the reason why I went Amazon instead of emerald was some of the faces on some of the emeralds. I don't know. I'm like, I don't like the way the faces look.
Is it the faces or the top of the butt heads?
The head, yeah. I don't feel it very much.
That's how I am about. I used to keep Indonesian tree boas, and I can't stand their freaking heads. They're like shovel face.
Yeah, it's just demons. Something. I'm like, and then they all kind of look the same. So I was like, I want something that I still can display them like the way these are displayed, and I have a variety of. I don't know. Call me weird. Whatever.
Those are really nice cages. What are those? Focus?
So these are actually focus cubes. Yeah. This is a condo that I had built from somebody local. So it's actually 3, but the rest those are all focus cubes there.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
actually, I like the condos though. It's like a good in between size. You
Mm-hmm.
can see how
Yeah.
small they're.
Nice for smaller ones, or
Yeah.
that's cool.
So
Nice.
I may see about doing more of those down the road. And then of
Yeah.
course I have my racks too for my biddies.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gone back and forth a lot. Had lot, even in just like the last 2 years, since I started keeping again, gone back and forth between bioactives and PVC cages, and honestly, I always go back to Rubbermaid containers because they hold the humidity so nicely, and the animals just like them better. And
If I could have like a nice way to set them up though, so it looked like a wall.
yeah, I have a Craftsman racks.
Yeah.
So like they're like the plastic Craftsman racks, and I can fit two. I think they're like 111 quarts.
Mm-hmm.
So they're pretty big. They're like 4 feet long, probably a foot and a half deep and a foot and a half high. And like these guys don't need straight up and down. Hi.
Yeah,
They don't
they're all
need.
over the place.
She wants to go at my glasses. But she'll rip them off, and then I won't be able to see. But yeah, it's nice because I can fit two. I can slide them in side by side on each level, and it's got like 5 levels. So I just put seedling heating mats because they only get like 10 degrees hotter, and yeah, they love it. Keeps them, a nice 90-degree spot to warm up if they want, and then if they want, they got 3 feet, 3 feet to shimmy on down.
Now, do you ever rotate your cohab pairs, or do you, once they're paired, that's...
Yeah. Usually I kind of try to pick a pairing for the year. If I'm not seeing, I say this like I've been doing it every year, but I just start, like last year was my first year again. But yeah, normally I'll pick a pairing in my head of what I want to do, and I'll introduce those animals and get them kind of cohabbing together. Just watch some just they just aren't compatible. They don't they don't like each other even enough to be around each other. They'll tolerate it, but it's like, how much stress do you really want to put on an animal that you're trying to get to do something you want it to do?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll try and feel it out, see how they do around each other, and then if they do good, then I'll just keep them around each other for quite a while, and then I'll separate them before initially pairing, after they've kind of gotten to know each other and are used to each other. So then you don't get that. I feel like if you introduce them and you haven't done that, and they don't like each other, they kind of put up this wall, and then you won't be able to get either one of them to pair to anything. So if you kind of gradually ease it in, everybody kind of knows each other, then, and that's another reason why I'll kind of switch them around. I won't keep just the same 2 together because I kind of want everybody to get acquainted with everybody. Obviously not males and males, but males and females. Definitely. So, yeah.
And then you just introduce them at breeding age, right? Or do you? Okay.
No, I try to cycle all the animals a year before they're ready. So I'll get the females. Like, she didn't go. Obviously, she's not even 3 yet.
Yeah.
I've bred ones her size before, with only maybe 6, 7 babies usually, down to like, I think the smallest litter I had was like 4. But I acted everything. I temp cycled her. I food cycled her, just like all the other females that I was planning on breeding this season. And just like I said, to get them in the,
Get her in the groove.
get her in the groove, get her in the zone, and get her used to how it's gonna be.
She's super pretty. It's hard to pick up coloring on the cameras, and it's still, you can still pick it up though.
With any camera, it's so hard. Unless
But
you
you can
have
still see it.
crazy Nikon,
Yeah, she's pretty. All right, before we wrap it up, any words of wisdom or advice for anybody who is considering getting into Amazons?
I would definitely say start with captive bred animal. If you don't have experience with arboreals, they're the perfect entry level arboreal snake. If you are planning on getting another type of arboreal snake, I would say, just the basic things to look for, make sure that they are healthy, flicking tongue, clear eyes, and honestly, they're one of the easiest snakes to take care of. Once you get down just the, misting and general everyday care, they're just as easy as a corn snake, I think. They're very tolerable of less than ideal conditions too. So if you forget to spray them or whatever, skip a meal, they're usually pretty hardy as compared to most other species. But I would say just, go for it. Don't believe what everybody else says, and kind of see for yourself. They're not for everybody. But I mean, I think if, people give them a chance, then they'll definitely get hooked on them, because they are one of the coolest, most personable, and flashy animals, I think.
All right, Miles, I'm going to throw you backstage real quick so I can just wrap it up, and then I'll wait for just a minute, okay?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, everyone. This wraps up another episode of Conjure Corner. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Conjure, corner where we rise and grow. Twist and turn, let the passion flow. Conjure, corner watch the future shine. Every scale a story, one of a kind.
From the shadows we move, striking out bright. In every twist we find the light. Breeding the best, gotta have patience in this game. Conjure Corner, where we make our name. Conjure Corner, Conjure Corner, Conjure Corner, Conjure Corner, Conjure Corner, Conjure Corner, Conjure Corner. Conjure Corner, where we rise and grow. Twist and turn, let the passion flow.